speaking of Netflix spending the dollars, they released their first major motion picture. I don't know why I'm calling it that. I think that's true. I think that's a true statement. It's definitely not their first like original movie, but I think this is like at least their like biggest budget one. And starring a A-list Hollywood actor and Will Smith. The name of the movie is Bright, and the total, I thought when I originally spoke about this in the podcast way long ago, like just like I want to say it was maybe even last year or something like that, but like when the deal was announced, I thought that Will Smith was getting 90 million, and but that was not the case. It was the entire budget of the movie was 90 million, which is still like huge and crazy, especially for an entity like Netflix. You know, it's not Hollywood, it's an outsider, quote unquote, to Hollywood, and they are like disrupting that space, which is dope, because I'm not into the whole there being just like one gatekeeper for like anything type of thing. You know, it's good to have options, and Netflix put up a formidable movie, you know, something that rivals the content that comes out of Hollywood, and it definitely did. It had like I said, a couple of great actors, a lot of great actors, but two very well known ones, and one definitely a list celebrity in Will Smith. I'm biased with Will Smith. I've always liked Will Smith, even though he plays like the same role. He's kind of like Denzel Washington in that way. I think Denzel plays, well, with the exception of Roman Israel, probably, even though he was kind of like that same role too, just like a nerdier version. But Will Smith plays a similar type of role. Like in all his movies, he's saving the world. In Independence Day, he's saving the world from aliens. In Hitchcock, he's saving the world from, you know, he's a fucking superhero. In Men in Black, saving the world from aliens. In Wild Wild West, saving fucking America. In Hitchcock, he's saving the world from fucking aliens again. Not Hitchcock. In Bright, in this movie in Bright, he's like a local cop, and he plays like that badass, like saving the day type of role. Because then movies like Bad Boy and stuff like that, you know, he's just like a badass cop and like saving the day type of thing. The hero role, you know, which is definitely nothing wrong with it, especially when you do it like at that level and that well. And I've always loved like the Fresh Prince and shit like that. It was, like one of my favorite sitcoms growing up. And so yeah, I'm definitely partial to Will Smith. So I probably would have said that I liked the movie anyway, or not said that I liked that. I probably would have found something to like within it anyway. But I just thought it was a good movie. I think it was polarizing. There were people that were like, "What the fuck was this piece of shit?" And then people that were like, "Yo, that shit was really good." And I'm in the latter category. I liked the like racial undertone, like storylines, like with the orcs or like the new minorities, and you know, for those of you that haven't watched the movie, spoiler alert, it's a setting in a contemporary LA, California. Will Smith is a cop. He has a partner who's an orc. An orc is some alien species that somewhere along the line, you get the sense and the vibe soon into like watching the movie that, you know, aliens and different species started like merging and like living with humans on Earth, and you know, people just lived amongst aliens and shit. And as we do, we you know, like the way we do with like new immigrants or something like that, when there's a wave of the first Irish that came to Ellis Island, to New York, like they were treated like shit, and then they moved up a little bit. Then the Italians, then they were treated like shit. Then they moved up a little bit. Then Puerto Ricans and Hispanics, and you know, so forth and so on and so forth, and blacks, and you know, there's always, we find people to discriminate, people that are different. And in this world, like the orcs were like the bottom of the barrel, but then there were other species like fairies, I think they were called, or no, elves. There were fairies too, actually, but there were elves. The elves were like the chic, rich, fucking high class species. Then humans were like, you know, somewhere in between. But it was like, you know, still Earth and like our planet type of thing. So humans were like not running shit, but, you know, still had a like dominant position, I guess you can call it. And besides that, everything was kind of like normal. You know, there were cops, there were fighting crime and shit like that, and just dealing with different species and different people's shit, different types of species shit. And of course, it's a Will Smith movie, so there were like aliens. Well, yeah, there were aliens. Everybody was a fucking alien, but he had to save the day against this evil force from existential fucking force that was going to kill life on the planet or something like that. And I thought the story was good. It was interesting. It kept you engaged. The movie was a touch long, I think. I honestly don't know what the runtime was, but it just felt like maybe like 10 or 15 minutes too long. But besides that, that's like, you know, I was like engaged throughout it. I found it interesting visually. I thought it was dope. Like, I honestly have like no knocks against it. Like, it was like fine. It was a good movie. Like, I would have, if I would have paid to go to the movie theater to watch it, it would have been an enjoyable experience, which is what you want. It's definitely not like movie of the year or anything like that. But it was dope. And the fact that it's, you know, coming from Netflix and it's rivaling like the status quo, it's just dope in and of itself. That it's able to like fuck with and compete at that level, which is cool. And did you guys hear about like Apple like putting in like an offer or like wanting to or showing interest in buying Netflix, which would be sick. Like that. See, that's when it's like too big. Like a company gets too huge. Like I wouldn't like that. I like that they're like separate. And then you have like other competition. Like for example, Disney owns Hulu or bought Hulu, and now owns it. And they pulled like all their Disney shit from that was on Netflix. They pulled it from Netflix to like exclusively play it on Hulu, to like give Hulu some play, which, you know, is another streaming service and stuff like that for movies and shows and original content and shit like that, to kind of like check Netflix a bit. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's that competition. It gives us as consumers options and raises like the quality level of things, which is pretty cool. It's a win-win. But definitely it wouldn't be for like Apple buying Netflix and like everything just becoming like one under one thing. You know what I mean? Then we'd be fucked. Enter net neutrality.